What's up guys, it's Marius from Audio Judgment, and today it's time for story time in the car because I think I fried my DSP. Now, to give you the whole story, it all started when my the vent over here broke because I had my phone on a magnetic stand, and since that is very expensive to replace at BMW, I bought it from AliExpress. And this is a pretty old car, and it runs well, I can't complain, but I don't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And since I have an iPhone, I'm going to talk about CarPlay. So that is the only thing I'm missing. So since I'm here on AliExpress buying a vent, let me buy the CarPlay module as well and see how it goes. I installed the device, it worked well. So I can show you if you long press the menu button. There you go, Apple CarPlay. And now, because I did a lot of fiddling, I did some initial testing, and then I did some modifications because the device has some dip switches and whatnot. And as you can see, the microphone is dangling over here because normally you have to route it on the roof, and you have to take this trim off and this one and the instrument cluster, and it's a pain. I'll probably do it later, but right now I have other problems. Now, when you do electrical work on your car, it is good practice to remove the negative terminal on your battery. I did, and the first time it worked fine, but the second time when I wanted to do some modifications, when I put the cable back, it kind of stuck to the battery terminal, like it welded for a short while. So I think there was a rush of current or something. And everything works fine. The CarPlay works, but I don't have sound in my front speakers. I do have into my rear speakers. So if I turn on the radio, you can hear sound in the back, not in the front. I'm gonna shut it down so I don't have any copyright issues. But my front speakers don't work. And to explain why, you need to understand how my system is set up. So the stock system on a BMW, which sucks by the way, if you have a BMW with the stock system, I don't care if it's new or old, BMW are terrible at making audio systems. Good cars, not good audio systems. So the stock system came with 3-inch mid-range in the front, no tweeters by the way, an 8-inch woofer under the seats, and 3-inch mid-range drivers on the back. So to upgrade this setup, I use some micro precision speakers. These are series 3 tweeters, and in the door there is 3-inch mid-range drivers. Now, micro precision speakers are not really known in US, probably not popular in Europe as well. They're kind of a niche speaker brand. They make awesome speakers, and even the cheaper ones, these are the cheapest speakers you can buy from micro precision, and they sound awesome. Now, if you want to buy the high-end ones, they are prohibitively expensive. They're crazy prices. Jesus. But anyway, I have these speakers and the stock woofers under the seats, because back then when I changed these audio systems, there weren't any aftermarket plug-and-play solutions. And if you want to replace that woofer with some ordinary shallow mount woofer, there might be a high chance it will sound worse than the stock one, because the enclosure volume is so low. So anyway, I have an Audison Bit 10, which has 5 channels. So I take the signal from the front speakers, which are 4, and amplify them and drive the underseat woofers and the mid-range drivers. And between the mid-range and the tweeter, there is a passive crossover. And the 5th channel goes to a subwoofer in the trunk. Now, the rear speakers are wired directly to the factory head unit, because I don't really care about the rear speakers. I don't see it in the back, and I cancel them altogether because in my opinion, it ruins the soundstage. If you want power and loud sounds, yeah, go ahead for rear speakers, but other than that, I just cancel them altogether using the fader and going all the way up to the front. Now they're useful because my front speakers are not working. So what I have to do now is hook up an external source, probably my phone, directly to the amp, so I can check if the amps are not fried or the speakers. And if they do work, clearly it's the DSP. Now the DSP is hidden behind the rear parcel shelf, and it's gonna be real fun disassembling that because the rear bench doesn't fold. Yeah, there is an extra option for BMW and this car doesn't have it. And it's gonna be really fun disassemble the whole rear bench to access the rear parcel shelf and the DSP to see what's what. So now we're gonna test the amps and the speakers, see if they work, and if they do, I'm gonna go and disassemble that thing in the back. Let's go. So I have the phone hooked up directly to the amp. I don't know if you can see it. So I'm playing some non-copyrighted music, and as you can see or hear, there is sound. So it is the DSP. Let's get to work. So finally we arrived to the DSP. There's a blue light, which means it's receiving power. Maybe it's not fried, maybe it's something else. I need to do some troubleshooting before I make any decision. Be right back. So after a few days I finally figured it out. So it turns out the DSP wasn't fried after all, which is quite embarrassing. But let me tell you the whole story because I learned a few things so other people will learn as well. So now it's working. Right. Some weird radio station over there. But now it's working, and it was not fried. And let me tell you why I believe the DSP was dead. It's because I tried connecting via USB. So I tried to hook the DSP to a laptop, and it didn't work. So my guess was the fuse was blown. So normally an amp has a fuse that is easily accessible, and you can easily swap it out with a brand new one. But the DSP, it might look like it doesn't have a fuse, but it does have one, which is soldered directly to the PCB. So you have to take the case off and desolder the fuse and solder another one, a brand new one. It might be a little bit tricky, but it's doable. So that was my scenario. And when I took off the rear parcel shelf and saw that there was a blue LED on, which meant the DSP was receiving power, I had to think something else, because obviously the fuse wasn't blown. So I went online and I found out that these Audison DSPs will give you a hard time when connecting to a laptop. Some people came with all sorts of solutions, like use an older laptop with Windows XP or use USB 2.0 connection. I figured out a method where it works 100% of the time, even though my laptop uses Windows 10 and I use a USB 3.0 port. So basically what you have to do is hook up your DSP to your laptop, keep your laptop on, and turn off your car. I have to lock my car as well, because that's when all the power is cut out, when you lock the car. I don't know how your car works, but I lock the car and come back. Even if you lock the car, the DSP still receives power and it shuts down, I don't know after how many minutes. But if you come back in like 15 minutes, the DSP is shut off for sure. So when you turn on your car and therefore turn on your DSP, the laptop will play that USB jingle that you connected a USB device, and it will detect the DSP. So after I finally connected the DSP to the laptop, I couldn't find any problem. There was no sound, but I looked at everything, the volume. I looked if any channels were muted. Everything looked normal. The next thing I thought of is to install new firmware. There was a new firmware version on the website. I installed a new firmware and the front speakers started working, but the ones under the seats did not. So that was a head scratcher. And then I found out that you have to tell the DSP where the signal is coming from. So it was set up on the front channels plus rear channels, and my DSP is connected only to the signal of the front channel. So you have to tell the DSP, hey, the signal is coming from the front channels, and duplicate that signal for all 5 outputs. And after that, the speakers from the under the seats worked as well. So when I did the firmware update, I made some pictures of the settings. My thinking was if I make this DSP to work, I will quickly copy the settings for the crossover so I don't fry the tweeters. This is quite embarrassing. When I checked those settings, I noticed that the volume, there is a master volume for the whole DSP, and that was all the way to 0. So basically the solution to my problem was to hook up the DSP to a laptop and turn the master volume all the way up. Not to remove the rear bench or all that nonsense. But I don't regret it because I learned a few things. So I'm guessing that the DSP protects, has a protection system, like if it receives too much voltage, it turns the volume all the way down to protect the speakers. That is my take on what happened. So now, since I updated the firmware, I lost all my settings. So this is a good opportunity for the next video to show you how to time align each speaker if you have a measurement microphone. So if you have a measurement microphone, I'm going to show you how to set up, to properly set up your DSP. So I'll see you next time. Peace.